Imagine being able to capture the attention, respect, and even admiration of anyone without having to beg, humiliate yourself, or appear desperate. Most people believe that in order to gain someone's interest, you must always be present, please at all costs, and clearly show your intentions. But what few know is that there is a much more powerful, and even counterintuitive, way to do this: reverse psychology combined with Stoicism. While reverse psychology creates the desire in others to come to you, Stoicism ensures you maintain emotional control and don't rely on the outcome. This combination is like an invisible magnet. You don't force it, you don't push, but you awaken in the other person the irresistible feeling of wanting to be near. Get ready, because in the next techniques, you'll discover how to reverse the game, make people chase you, and most importantly, do this while keeping your inner peace intact. So let's dive into the teachings. Lesson 1. Value your absence more than your presence. Many people believe that to win someone over, you have to always be there, reply to messages immediately, and be available for any invitation. But this is precisely the trap that pushes people away. When you're always around, predictable and easy, the other person's brain understands that they already have you, and naturally interest fades. Reverse psychology comes into play when you do the opposite. Reduce your presence slightly and, in a calculated way, pull back in moments when the person expects you to be near. This small void creates curiosity, and curiosity is one of the most powerful mental triggers there are. In Stoicism, we learn that we shouldn't be driven by the fear of losing someone. On the contrary, we should be willing to step away to preserve our dignity. So, the technique is simple but requires self-control. Reduce the frequency of responses, be less available, and focus your energy on other areas of your life. At first, this might create insecurity because you might think, what if the person distances themselves for good? But this is exactly where the game changes. Those who care too much about not losing become predictable. Those who can step away with confidence gain value. The other person starts to wonder, what is he or she doing? Have they lost interest? Are they meeting someone else? And it's in that questioning that the pursuit begins. You stop being the hunter and become the rare prey, and in human instinct, what is rare is more valuable. In Stoicism, this is called emotional self-sufficiency. You're not playing to win at all costs, but to maintain your essence. When your absence starts to be felt, your presence becomes a gift, not an obligation. Remember, scarcity creates desire, and desire moves people. So, if you want to conquer anyone, first learn to value your absence more than your presence. Lesson 2. Agree to disarm. One of the most common reactions when someone tries to provoke, challenge, or impose something on us is to counter-argue, defend our point of view, or even enter into conflict. But here lies one of the most fascinating secrets of reverse psychology. Agree with the other person, precisely when they expect you to disagree. When someone makes a provocative statement, they are actually preparing the ground for an ego battle. Instead of offering resistance, you surprise and disarm them by simply responding, "Yeah, maybe you're right." This move confuses and, at the same time, takes the control out of the other person's hands. After all, there's no fight when only one side is willing to argue. Stoicism teaches us that no one can offend you without your permission, and by agreeing calmly, you show that you're not playing the provocation game. The magic is in the psychological effect. When someone doesn't find resistance, their need to prove a point diminishes, and they start to relax. In this state, you gain space to guide the conversation in your favor. Another important point is that this technique breaks expectations. Most interactions follow predictable patterns. Someone attacks, the other defends. When you break this cycle, you become memorable because you don't act like everyone else. Additionally, this stance conveys silent self-confidence. Only those who are secure within themselves can let go of the need to have the last word. In relationships, this technique is even more powerful. Instead of insisting on convincing the other, you plant a seed of doubt because when you don't try to win, the other person starts to think that maybe they need to win you over. It's important to highlight that agreeing here doesn't mean being passive or accepting something harmful. It's just a strategic maneuver to take the weight off the moment, reduce defenses, and create openness for the other to approach. In practice, it works like this. Someone says something with the intention to confront you, You listen calmly, respond with, "I understand your point," or "What you said makes sense," and shift the conversation to a more neutral ground. This lightness creates an almost magnetic effect. People feel more comfortable around those who are not in defensive mode all the time. Over time, this approach creates an image of maturity and emotional mastery. And when the other person realizes they can't knock you off balance, they start to respect and even admire your presence. Remember, in the art of conquest, sometimes strength lies in not fighting the battle the other person wants you to fight. Lesson 3. Show less interest than you feel. This is one of the most challenging techniques for those who want to win someone over because it requires self-control and a certain level of emotional detachment. The natural impulse when we're attracted to someone is to constantly show interest. Respond quickly, give a lot of compliments, seek proximity at all times. But reverse psychology proves that this, most of the time, generates the opposite effect. The person starts to feel too secure about your interest and thus reduces their effort. The key here is to show less interest than you actually feel. This doesn't mean pretending complete indifference or acting cold, but rather balancing the scales so that the other person feels the need to invest more in the relationship. In practice, this can be done subtly. Don't always respond immediately, don't be available for every invitation, and, most importantly, avoid showing excessive enthusiasm in every interaction. Stoicism teaches us not to be governed by emotions, and here it's vital. When you hold back your reactions, you create an air of mystery, and mystery is fuel for human desire. Think of it this way. When a movie reveals the entire plot at the beginning, it loses its charm. When a story keeps the suspense, you stay hooked, wanting to know more. Reverse psychology makes the other person, when they feel they don't have full control over your interest, want to win your space. This activates what psychologists call perceived scarcity. The value of something increases when we perceive we might lose it. Of course, this technique requires balance. If you show too little, you risk seeming genuinely uninterested. If you show too much, you give away all the power of the interaction. The secret is to create a dance of signals. Get closer a little, then step back. Show attention, then focus on other things. This keeps the person always attentive, curious, and engaged. And, as Stoicism teaches, the goal is not to manipulate but to preserve your value and avoid letting your well-being depend on the other's actions. In the end, showing less interest than you feel isn't about playing emotional games, but about maintaining a healthy balance that encourages the other person to also make an effort. And when the effort is mutual, the conquest becomes much more intense and true. Lesson 4. Create the feeling that you can live perfectly without the person. Few things are as attractive as someone who conveys the impression of being complete by themselves. The most common mistake when trying to win someone over is demonstrating that life only makes sense if that person is in it. This suffocates, pressures, and creates an emotional burden that pushes them away. Reverse psychology works here subtly. When you demonstrate, through actions, that your life is already rich, interesting, and fulfilling, the other person feels they need to make an effort to become part of it. Stoicism reinforces this idea by teaching that true freedom comes from not depending on anything external for peace. This means having hobbies, goals, projects, and healthy relationships that don't revolve around a single individual. In practice, it's about engaging in activities alone, posting moments of personal achievement, talking about goals, and showing that your time is valuable. When the other person realizes they're not the only source of your happiness, something shifts. They stop feeling absolute security about their place and start to value your attention more. Human instinct is curious. We desire what seems not to need us. This feeling creates a silent challenge that sparks interest and even admiration. But be careful. It's not about showing off or pretending not to care. It's about genuinely living well with or without that person and letting them perceive this naturally. This stance takes you out of the dependent position and places you in the role of someone who is, by themselves, complete. And the more complete someone seems, the more irresistible they become to others. Stoicism would call this virtuous self-sufficiency, living according to your own values without submitting to the fear of loss. When the other person realizes that your presence is a choice, not a necessity, they start to fight to deserve it. And this reversal of roles is one of the most powerful weapons in reverse psychology. Lesson 5. Agree partially, but set your final point. Many times, to win someone over, you don't need to win an argument, you need to make it seem like there was no argument at all. Reverse psychology teaches that when you agree partially with someone, but calmly and firmly insert your point of view at the end, it creates a sense of balanced dialogue, not competition. For example, if someone says, "I think you should act this way," you could respond, "I understand your point, that could work in some situations, but in my case, I think this approach fits better." This move is powerful because it disarms the other person. They feel heard. While setting clear boundaries, they realize you're not easily swayed by any opinion. Stoicism reinforces this technique by reminding us that we shouldn't cling to controlling others' thoughts. Your mission is to express your truth with serenity, not to impose that it must be accepted. Psychologically, this balance creates respect. People don't like those who give in too easily, but they also avoid those who clash with everything. The middle ground conveys maturity and emotional security. Additionally, this technique creates a silent impact. The other person realizes you have your own opinion, and to influence you, they need to present something truly solid. This implicit challenge stimulates more interest because nothing that is too easy keeps attention for long. Therefore, agreeing partially is like opening the door for the other person to enter, but making it clear that they won't change the decoration of your house without your permission. In the field of conquest, this makes you magnetic because you give the impression that you are open to listening but never willing to lose yourself to please. Lesson 6. Create small gaps in response to generate search. This technique is almost a classic of reverse psychology, but when combined with Stoicism, it becomes even more powerful. The principle is simple. Don't respond immediately to everything. Humans value what isn't always within reach. When someone realizes they won't always have your attention immediately, they start to value it more. This can be done naturally. Sometimes, instead of replying right away, wait a little. Instead of answering the call immediately, return it later. But the key is balance. Overdoing this technique can come across as childish games, while moderate use shows that you have a busy and interesting life. Stoicism comes into play as the foundation of this stance because it requires emotional discipline to not give in to the urge to respond quickly just to relieve anxiety. When the other person feels this slight lack, their brain activates the search mechanism. Are they busy? Are they with someone else? Did I forget something? This curiosity creates engagement, and when you finally respond, your attention is received as something valuable. It's important to remember that this technique isn't about ignoring or humiliating, but about breaking the pattern of predictability. What is too constant becomes invisible. What appears and disappears at the right moment grabs attention. Therefore, create small gaps of presence and watch how it increases interest. Lesson 7. Reverse the game with unexpected compliments. Most people compliment when they want to win someone over. The problem is, predictable compliments lose their effect quickly. Reverse psychology suggests reversing the order. Compliment in moments when the person doesn't expect it, especially when they're not at the height of their self-confidence. For example, instead of complimenting someone's appearance when they're all dressed up, do it on a simple day, pointing out a detail no one else notices. This creates a much greater emotional impact because it breaks expectations. Stoicism adds depth here by teaching us to speak the truth with intention and awareness. The compliment must be genuine, not just a tactic. When you surprise someone with a compliment outside the script, they associate you with positive and unique feelings. Psychologically, this also creates a stronger bond because the other person starts to perceive that you see them in a special way, beyond the obvious. Conquest isn't about complimenting a lot, but about complimenting with precision and at the right moment. This precision makes your words carry more weight than a series of empty statements. Additionally, an unexpected compliment can reverse power dynamics. If someone is used to being the center of attention and receives a selective compliment from you, they start to value your opinion in a different way. In the end, the combination of subtlety, authenticity, and timing makes this technique one of the most impactful. And when used alongside the other 6, it creates an almost irresistible magnetism. Did you like these techniques? Then like, subscribe, and activate the bell so you don't miss any videos. Share it with anyone who will also enjoy learning about reverse psychology and Stoicism. Comment below which technique you're going to apply first. Let's chat in the comments. See you next time.